Hi there, it's Sam from Versus.com, again with another comparison video. In this one we will take a closer look at the Oppo Find X3 Pro and the Sony Xperia 1 Mark II. We are comparing them in terms of display, performance, camera, design and battery. So watch until the end of this video and find out which phone is in our opinion the better phone. If you'd like to see more videos like this, feel free to subscribe and hit the notification bell. Let's start straight away with our review. Let the facts speak. Performance. The Sony Xperia 1 Mark II has 256GB internal storage capacity. It is equipped with a super fast Qualcomm Snapdragon 865 chip and has 8GB RAM. Storage capacity can be expanded by up to 1TB. Expandable storage capacity up to 1TB? Pretty nice. Now let's see what the Find X3 Pro has got to offer. The X3 Pro is equipped with Qualcomm's latest chip, the Snapdragon 888. The phone has 12GB RAM and a storage capacity of 256GB. The storage capacity unfortunately cannot be expanded. So, the latest Snapdragon 888 against the older sibling, the 865. Normally, I would say experience beats usefulness. But since technology ages differently, I am pretty sure that I know already which one will come out on top. But enough of the talking. Let's take them into the N22 benchmark and the Geekbench 5 test and find out. The tests are divided into three phases: a performance test of the RAM, a test of how the device is handling two-dimensional graphics, and an endurance test of how the device is handling 3D graphics. The second test is from Geekbench. This app will measure the performance of our smartphones in terms of CPU and GPU. Yeah, this went pretty much exactly as I expected. Thanks to the power of the Snapdragon 888, the Find X3 Pro was able to beat the Xperia in every single benchmark category. Although, you have to say that the Geekbench single category was very close and the expandable storage capacity is a pretty good argument. Anyhow, the winner of this category of course is the Find X3 Pro. Display. The Oppo Find X3 Pro has a 6.7-inch display, which measures 17.02cm diagonally and has a resolution of 1440p. Its AMOLED screen creates very natural colors and has a pixel density of 525 ppi. It features a refresh rate of 120Hz and a peak brightness of 1300 nits. Overall, that looks like a well-rounded display. Next up, the Xperia. The Xperia 1 Mark II has a 6.5-inch cinema wide display, which means it has a 21:9 aspect ratio with a 1644p resolution. It uses a 4K OLED screen which creates crispy sharp images. The 6.5-inch display therefore measures 16.5cm diagonally with a pixel density of an incredible 643 ppi. The screen only has a 60Hz refresh rate, but it uses motion blur which creates the look and feel of a 90Hz display. As mentioned before, the Find X3 Pro has an overall well-rounded screen and offers basically everything you can ask for in a 2021 smartphone screen. Obviously, the Xperia has an impressively high pixel density and can display an unusual high resolution. But the fixed 60Hz refresh rate is not even near the necessary standard of today, and pretty much a nail in the coffin. Besides that, the phone is also pretty hard to use in bright daylight, since it has such a low peak brightness. The Oppo has none of these problems, and instead features things like the LTPO panel, 120Hz, adaptable refresh rate, and 1300 peak nits. And therefore it gets the point. Camera. The Oppo Find X3 Pro has a quad rear camera system. It features a 50MP wide angle, a 50MP ultra wide angle, a 13MP telephoto and a 3MP micro lens camera. Its front camera has a resolution of 32MP. The X3 Pro records 4K videos at a maximum of 60 frames per second. And of course it has optical image stabilization. The micro lens camera sounds like a really cool feature. Next up is Sony's camera system. The Sony Xperia 1 Mark II has three main cameras: a 60mm ultra-wide, a 24mm wide angle and a 70mm telephoto camera. Each camera has a resolution of 12MP. The front camera's resolution is 8MP. The Sony Xperia 1 Mark II records 4K videos at a maximum of 60 frames per second. And of course it has image stabilization for video too. Both phones have good camera systems, but which one is actually the better system? Let's take it to our camera test and let's find out which one does a better job. The images taken with the rear camera of the Xperia overall have great quality. They are sharp, have a good color rendering and are perfectly in focus. But the Oppo takes all this and brings it to an even higher level. The results are just amazing and the micro lens is a nice special feature. In terms of the front camera, it's again the Find X3 Pro that has the better outcome. As you can see, the picture is a lot sharper and also shows more details. The Xperia 1 Mark II has a 3-fold optical and a 3-fold digital zoom feature, while the Find X3 Pro has a 5-fold hybrid optical zoom and a 20-fold digital zoom. Thanks to a resolution of 4K, both phones are able to produce excellent videos. When it comes to slow motion videos, the Xperia is able to produce 120 frames per second videos in 2K and in full HD mode. Whereas the Oppo is capable of 240 frames per second in full HD and 480 frames per second in HD. In short, the Find X3 Pro definitely has the better camera system. The pictures overall are of a higher quality and even features a 4th camera. But if you want a little bit more control, the Sony might still be a good fit for you. The Pro apps certainly are a nice feature and can give you the impression of using a real camera and not just a smartphone. Nevertheless, it's the Oppo that overall got the better arguments and therefore deserves this point. Design. The Oppo Find X3 Pro has an aluminum frame and a glass finish on the back. This version has a shiny metallic finish, but there's also a matte blue one available. It features a very futuristic design with a triangular lens camera bump in the upper left corner on the back of the phone. The smartphone weighs 193 grams. It features a USB-C connector and is IP68 rated. That means that it is water and dust resistant. The phone also uses face recognition technology and a fingerprint sensor to unlock the phone. Both technologies work great. As a special feature for sound enthusiasts, the X3 Pro's alarms and ringtones are custom designed by famous producer Hans Zimmer. Inspired by spacecraft. That's the official statement. I gotta say, very interesting design indeed. Next up, the Xperia. The Sony Xperia 1 Mark II has a clean design with a glossy finish. The triple camera system is well positioned on the upper left corner on the back of the phone. We noticed that lots of flagship phones have really big camera bumps. Sony did a good job by reducing theirs to an acceptable amount on this phone. The smartphone weighs 181 grams. It is water and dust resistant thanks to an IP68 rating. The Xperia 1 Mark II has, like every modern smartphone, a USB-C connector. You can unlock the phone via fingerprint scanner, which is built into the power button on the right side of the phone. One thing that you cannot find in most of the new flagship phones is an audio jack. The Xperia 1 Mark II still has one, which we consider as a bonus point. Alright, so what can we say about these two phones? First of all, they are both worthy representatives of their brands and quite rightly considered flagship phones. Both use only high-class materials, which makes them look and feel very valuable. Even though you have to give a bonus point to the Xperia for using Corning Gorilla Glass 6 on both front and backside, instead of Gorilla Glass 5 that is used on the Oppo. Besides that, both share a very different design approach. The Find X3 Pro tries to be extra futuristic, with that spacey look, especially thanks to the gradient arc camera. The Xperia, on the other hand, goes for a more traditional approach with that nice slim camera bump, which fits the overall design very well. And even though you gotta give an extra point for innovation to the Oppo, the minimalist and mature design of the Xperia fits our taste a bit more. Therefore, the Sony is the winner of this category and gets its first point. Battery. The Oppo Find X3 Pro has 4500 mAh. On the other hand, the Xperia has 4000 mAh. Both phones support fast charging, but while Sony is offering 21 watts, the Oppo tops that with impressive 65 watts. In terms of wireless charging, the Find X3 Pro features 30 watts and the Xperia only 11 watts. Reverse wireless charging is only available on the Oppo. The Oppo Find X3 Pro has a bigger battery and should therefore last longer. Let's bring them to our day-to-day usage test and see if that's true. Okay, so in our test the Find X3 Pro was able to outlast the Xperia by quite a bit. This certainly doesn't surprise too much, since the Oppo has a larger battery and also uses the new 5nm technology, which is said to increase battery life by a lot. The Find X3 Pro also has better charging capabilities and therefore clearly deserves this point. Conclusion. So, here we are again at the end of our video, which means that it's time for a little conclusion. And what do we need to do for that? Right, go through all the categories one more time and collect the points. First, we compared the displays of the two phones, which ended up in Oppo getting its first point. The Xperia certainly had some good arguments, but overall was a little bit outdated. Then we took a closer look at the performance rating of the devices and saw a one-man show dominated by the Find X3 Pro and its powerful Snapdragon 888 chipset. Another point for the Oppo. In terms of camera, it was not as decisive as before, but in the end it was once more the Find X3 Pro that could prevail and take the third point home. In the fourth category, we compared the design of both smartphones, and after a very close race, we decided it was time for the Sony to show up on the scoreboard, as its minimalist design was a little bit more our taste. So, 1 point for the Xperia. Concerning battery life, things were pretty decisive again. The newer technology, bigger battery and better charging capabilities led to yet another point for the Oppo. To summarize, we got 4 points for the Find X3 Pro and 1 point for the Xperia, which means that the one and only winner of today's comparison is the Oppo Find X3 Pro. Naturally, we review more than these 5 categories covered here. If you want to see the full comparison, follow the link to our website. You can compare up to 7 different smartphones at versus.com. But before you do that, please post your comments and let us know which phone you think ranks first. If you liked our video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel. Till then, take care and see you soon.